Hey everyone, welcome back to YouTube. This is Jeff, and I'm back with my co-host Yao Bonsu here. Hope everyone's had a good holiday break. It's been like I think 2 weeks since we last posted, but we are back. Yeah, today we wanted to do a nice extra long chat about the OKC Thunder in particular, who obviously, as we all know, they're off to an absolutely historic start, best one we've seen since the 2016 Warriors. And yeah, I know you've got some crazy stats about just how dominant they've been this season. So why don't we start off with just kind of like a little bit of a flex of how well they're doing?
I mean, look, first in defensive rating, 104.1. That ranks first, and that's in front of the Warriors and Rockets, who are at 110.7. So that's how large the gap is. Second in points per game, second in steals per game, second in assist to turnover ratio, fourth in EFG, second in turnover percentage, first in turnovers forced per game, first in opponents plus minus, first in opponents points allowed. I mean, as great as the offense is and as many weapons as they have, the defense is probably the thing that stands out the most because you have a full rotation and a half full of individuals who can lock up on any given night. If Shea's out, which he was, he dominated. I mean, and then he's out the lineup, and OKC is still as dominant. Against the Jazz, Shea was out with an elbow injury. Isaiah Joe was out due to a knee injury. Caruso had a quad injury. Dort was out due to a thigh injury. And it was still clockwork, albeit against the Utah
And
Jazz. But
yeah, in that game, I don't know if you saw that clip, but they had like Jazz coach Will Hardy
cursing
yelling
out.
at his team
Yeah.
about
He
playing
said, I'm
harder.
tired of freaking going
Yeah,
over.
and
Like,
they blew
that's
him
how
out. Yeah,
frustrated. That's how
and that's for
frustrated you
like
get.
that's the thing. I don't know how much of this you've kind of seen on like Twitter so far, but there's kind of like a really big debate going on about if OKC's defense is actually that good, or if they're getting away with like fouls and playing more physical than other teams are. And that was kind of like going on through last year's playoffs too, where people were kind of complaining about how like Thunder defenders in particular, Alex Caruso and Lou Dort, right? And now like Case and Wallace are able to play with a level of physicality that a lot of fans felt like their teams weren't allowed to get away with. And honestly, so I don't know if you think that's true or not, but I think there's two components in this. One, I actually do think it's absolutely true that OKC is able to get away with playing more physical than anybody else. But I think the part that what a lot of those guys miss is that the reason why they're able to do so is, and if Iman Shumpert kind of had a little post about this earlier, but every single person on that team, pardon, sorry, every single person on that team plays with a level of with like a lot of energy and physicality, right? And when it's every single player on every single possession, one, it makes it hard for the refs to just start calling fouls on every single play, right? Because they see all five guys throughout the court running around, playing up against guys, not giving guys room, and not getting away with, but they're doing a lot of stuff. It's like maybe not 50-50, but kind of like 40-60 in terms of, oh, would you call that, right? And when you have players who, let's say they spend 3 or 4 possessions and they're playing kind of back, they're not really being aggressive, and then all of a sudden on one possession they start pressing up while they have their hands on them. Yeah, the ref's gonna call that, right? It's the first time seeing you do that all game. Like they're gonna call that. That's not the level of physicality you've been kind of like setting the whole time. But when you come out and you do that from the jump, and it's every single player, they will kind of let you get away with that more often, and that's really impressive, right? That's not easy to do for your team to get everyone to come out and play like that. It takes a level of buy-in, it takes a level of discipline. It's a testament to both Mark Daigneault and the rest of the team and the maturity of the players. But yeah, I think it is absolutely true that Caruso, Wallace, and Dort are able to play with their hands a bit more.
Oh, yeah, well, two things can be true. Number one, everything you said was absolutely correct. But number two, that doesn't mean other teams can't get the same whistle or lack thereof that OKC can have. So everything you just laid out comes down to two things: great coaching and great personnel. It's not as jarring when OKC plays physical because that's the MO of their team. Meanwhile, if you have a team that's a bit softer and you have two players that are absolutely dominant and very physical when it comes to their defense, then that becomes a bit more surprising. The referee's like, oh, we're not used to that. We're going to call that. So it's a credit to, again, Sam Presti, not that we need to sound the horn on him even more and gas him up more, but he got players that are physical and fit the MO of OKC, which is playing physical defense. So does OKC have a lack of a whistle? I would agree with that as well, but that does not mean that other teams can't get away with the same thing. It's just going to take a full team buy-in to be a physical defensive team the way the Thunder are.
Yeah, and I think it's like when we watched, I feel like the Nuggets and Pacers play OKC to like those 7-game series. Honestly, I felt like both those teams were also kind of like hacking the crap out of OKC as well, too.
But Jokic was getting
those
bad.
teams were also they were like,
Jokic
yeah,
was getting
like,
bad.
we're gonna play like this too. And the refs are like, yeah, if everybody, if all 10 players on the court want to play physical and they want to play tough like this, they're gonna let them play like that. To me, it's kind of like it's very much a consistency thing. You got to set the tone, right? Because it's true. A lot of NBA games are, honestly, all of them, right, are officiated differently from another. We've seen plenty of games where everyone on both sides are getting away with calls that in a different game are getting whistled like on the first possession.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. And that was Game 4 last year between Denver and OKC. I think the score was 92-87 or some close score like that. OKC came out with the win. Jokic led all scores, but man, that was probably the most physical game of the series, and it wasn't because that was the lowest scoring game. Genuinely speaking, it was. The whole series was a war. We were speaking about it throughout, but that game in particular goes back to what you were saying, just throwing haymakers at one another. The tone was set very early in that game, and again, it goes back to both teams being physical. It's not. I don't know if people find an issue with it. If it's an issue, then okay. I don't really think it's an issue that OKC is physical on defense. They're just difficult to play against. And if you're trying to curtail how physical they are on defense, then I would suggest you try to move the ball quick. You have a quick pace of play, and you try to exploit them as much as possible. They don't have any weaknesses as far as I can tell, but it's just something you have to live with.
And actually, I'm not really sure which NBA teams lead in fouls, but I will say I think one thing that OKC, like the best, both offenses and defense in the league really kind of emphasize nowadays is really forcing turnovers. OKC, one of the reasons why they're so good is their defense is really good.
Yeah, they lead the league in turnovers forced per game.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not. That's not just good because they're they're just preventing like shots from going in. It's when you first force turnovers, you're gaining a possession, and it's usually a high quality one because it's in transition, and you're taking one away from another team as well. As like intuitive and like easy as it might sound, that's like potentially like a 4-point swing every single time it happens, right?
Yeah.
If you score an 8 and you take, obviously if you're removing a point from them. So, and that's like one of the biggest. I'm actually not sure what they're. Sorry, I brought up the foul ranks because
they're 12th in the league in fouls.
They're 12th. Okay, honestly, that's not as like
That's not like they're fouling. They commit 21, a little over 21 fouls a game.
I wonder what that would be on a per possession basis, but that's totally fine. I don't think we need to get into the weeds with that. But I was going to say I would not be surprised if they were actually like top 5 in the league or whatever, because it seems like they're okay with, if they get a whistle, they get a whistle, but they're willing to risk it for the sake of
that's a pretty good ratio though. Yeah. That really is a good ratio to be 12th in fouls committed, but first in turnovers forced. Like I'll take that any day. Meanwhile, I don't know if you think of the Hornets, for example, as a great defensive team. If you don't,
they're leading the league though, right? In fouls.
Yeah, exactly. They're leading. They commit the fewest fouls per game at 19.
Yeah, if there was like a breakdown of like, I guess reach and fouls versus shooting fouls, which I'm guessing the majority of fouls. The majority of fouls being called are like shooting fouls, of course, too. So maybe OKC is like actually top 4 or 5 in actual just reach in or blocking fouls because they're playing aggressive, but Point is though, yeah, big emphasis for them for both their offense and defense is forcing those turnovers because you create high quality looks, possessions when you do that, and of course you're removing a possession from the opposing team as well. But onto that kind of point though. So obviously we know they're really dominant. They're 23-1, and yet they're on pace to win like what 78 games, which they're probably not going to end up winning 78 games. Just
They might win 74 though.
They might win 73 or 74, right?
That's
I guess my
a
point
possibility.
is the hype around this team is
It's
nowhere
not enough.
close to the hype
It's not enough.
around
It's
Golden
not
State's
enough.
in 2016.
You know why? You know why? Because
I have my own thoughts too, but I
we've
would
seen
love
it
to hear
before.
why you think so. Yeah.
We've seen it before, right? So when OKC got 72 wins or 73 wins, it was fairly fresh because us as basketball fans, people our age and younger, we weren't alive to see those great Laker teams, the great Boston teams, and then the Chicago Bulls team that won 72 games. So it was a fairly new concept that somebody could win 70-plus games. And now that we've seen that with Golden State and a lot of the players that were on that team are still in the league, it's not a fresh concept. I mean, that was 2016? It hasn't been that long ago at all. Meanwhile, I kind of compare this to Russell Westbrook in a way. Russell Westbrook averaging triple-doubles multiple years has become something that we are numb to and that people underrate heavily. And then when Jokic does it, it's not necessarily used as a point as to why he should win an MVP because they go back to the efficiency rather than just the plain fact that he averaged a triple-double. It's not seen as impressive because we've seen it with Russell Westbrook. But the fact that he averaged a triple-double, Westbrook, is a reason why he won that MVP. But every other year he does it, it's just Russ being Russ. So the reason this OKC team hasn't been hyped is because we've seen it before. And is that sad? Yeah, because I don't think we should ever get numb to greatness. But that's really the number one thing I point to is the fact that because those Golden State teams were so good, we've seen it before. I don't think people are thinking, wow, man, this is really one of the greatest teams that we've ever seen. Because that's not hyperbolic to say that right now. At least through 24 games they are. But the fact that, again, Golden State did it all those years ago, even though it hasn't been that long, is something that is kind of clouding our judgment when it comes to this OKC team.
Yeah. Well, so I think I'd say my reasoning is pretty. I think the core reasoning is the same. I just have slightly different evidence or arguments to present for that. Of course, it's true. I think it is because like we've seen it before, but I think the other thing is just like when Golden State started off, right? I mean, they were undefeated for I don't know how many games was it, like 22, 21? Let me look that up real quick. But the Warriors, like, that was kind of uncharted territory, really, right? Where it's like we hadn't seen a team start off that hot, undefeated ever before. And, like, you were watching every single game, or you were following every single game the Warriors are playing because you're like, wow, is this the game that Golden State finally actually loses, right? And by the way, in hindsight, I mean, it's hilarious that the team they lost to, which...
Yeah, that Bucks team had Giannis, Chris Middleton, O.J. Mayo, and Jabari
that was
Parker.
Before Chris Middleton was like that
Yeah,
too.
Chris
That was
Middleton,
way
yeah.
before his All-Star.
Jabari Parker dropped 19 that game. Greg Monroe, starting center, had 28. Led the team in scoring to down the Warriors to make them go 24-1. That's how long.
You know what I was gonna say? I remember like the dialogue after that game was people saying that, oh, the low post game is gonna like is back, or it's still gonna be the core of the NBA, right? Because they saw Greg Monroe dominate them that game, and
they also saw Michael Carter Williams as well. He had 17 off the bench,
fundamental down low play,
no 3-pointers as well.
No disrespect to Greg Monroe, of course, because that's obviously not what happened later on. But yeah, I just remember reading like YouTube comments after that game because I was watching the highlights, and the comments were just full of people going like, "Wow, yeah, like you can't beat old school low post play." Greg Monroe's bringing it back. But
well, hey,
yeah. Anyways, sorry,
they beat the
got
Warriors,
sidetracked.
So.
Um, but I was just saying that like I feel like because we were just following every single game, waiting to see if Golden State was going to lose. We don't quite have the same effect here because we know OKC lost already, and it's like there's not quite the same drama of that effect. Now I think once we're in the late season, and let's say they're 66 and 6, right? Then every single game we watch again, we're gonna start being like, wow, are they
Well,
gonna be able
actually,
to beat this record?
I would give it maybe 2-3 weeks before we're feeling that because remember, OKC is in the NBA Cup, and we are in the knockout stages, so it's essentially win or go home. So that's enough for fans to be like, okay, so OKC should be the favorite to, raise this cup in Vegas in a few weeks, right? But hey, the Knicks look fantastic tonight. If there's any team that can knock off OKC in the NBA Cup, not in a 7-game series, I mean, that's something that's going to get you that type of feeling that you're going to be waiting for when you're looking at the Thunder potentially getting the wins record. NBA Cup, this big
Yeah, I
in-season
guess
thing.
yeah, I would say I think every single time OKC loses, we're gonna give them that
But
level of
especially
like
to do it
attention.
there. Because remember, the NBA Cup, nobody has really been talking about it in the grand scheme of things. It's been kind of this thing that happens, and then when the playoffs start, nobody really cares. But now people are going to care even more because not only can you have a team that is not OKC win the NBA Cup, but that team could beat OKC en route to winning the NBA Cup, which opens up a whole lot of dialogue. Imagine if the Knicks beat the Thunder in the NBA Cup. 1 game winner, go home. Oh, should the Knicks be considered the favorites to come out the East? Should the Knicks be considered the biggest favorite to the Thunder? I'm telling you, those conversations will happen. Whoever beats the Thunder, if the Thunder even lose,
Yeah,
those
I'll
conversations
be
will
honest. I don't. I don't know how seriously like I feel like anyone's really gonna take like any regular season like outcome like that much. I can see the vision,
happen.
and
Exactly. In any other
I
year,
admire the optimism because
no,
you
any other
are.
year you're right. Any other year you're right. But remember who we're talking about here. A 24-1 OKC team. As you just said,
I
every
don't know.
loss
I
is
feel
going to
like
be
if I
notable.
see the Knicks beat like OKC in the NBA Cup Finals, I don't know if that like changes how I feel about the Knicks really that much.
Nor
You
should
know what
it.
I mean?
But the
Like I don't think
general
a single
population
game.
of fans it'll change something for somebody notable. Whether that's a big talking head or a large contingent of fans that are not fans of the team, somebody's going to look at that loss and say, "Oh snap. Oh snap. We got to take the Knicks and Mike Brown seriously." I'll
Well,
still have
okay.
OKC as the favorite though.
What about when like Boston? So Boston was the only team that beat Golden State at home during that 2016 season, right? Every other loss Golden State suffered, all 8 of them were on the road. The Celtics were the only team that beat them. Actually, am I getting that right? Were they undefeated at home, or did hold on? I need to fact check that because I'm going off memory here. But I just remember Boston was a very notable win there. Portland also beat Golden State, and that was a big.
Yeah, Warriors went 39-2 at home
Okay,
that
so Boston.
season.
Okay, so Boston did beat them at home. Um, but I remember when that game happened. That was a pretty big deal. Everyone was, I guess people were kind of saying, "Wow, are Boston like contender?" I think that it legitimizes a team like Boston because they were young and they were kind of like up and coming. So that was Isaiah Thomas's first All Star season, I think. I think it legitimizes you. I feel like for the Knicks, it might not quite carry the same weight because like we know what the Knicks are. They're good. They're gonna be like in the mix for coming out the East. I think if it was a team, for example, like who's in the NBA Cup in the let's say for teams that are already eliminated, right? If Detroit, for example, were the team that beats OKC in the NBA Cup Finals, I think that lends like then you start going, okay, Detroit can really actually make it out the East because they just beat the Thunder in a high stakes game like that. I feel
Okay.
like for the Knicks, you'd have to have been really feeling negative about the Knicks beforehand for that to really be like a swaying factor. And I think if you're really negative about the Knicks already, I'm not sure this like changes your mind either because you were probably just a pessimist in the first place, and you're like the
Okay.
confirmation, well, anti-confirmation bias to be real in that
Okay.
case.
All right. But counterpoint, if you're going to have a game to feel good about the Knicks, wouldn't you want it to be a win over OKC? Like, if there's going to be a game that makes you think the Knicks are legit, if you didn't think so already, then wouldn't you want it to be against a team that only has one loss? And wouldn't you want it to come in the NBA Cup? I can't think of a better game.
Okay. How about this? I think for me, it's less of a single game thing because we all know anybody can beat anybody on
any given day.
night-to-night basis.
Yep.
I will agree with you in this situation. Let's say the Knicks come in and they're on like a 7-game winning streak, right? Because it's consistency. That's what like wins you playoff games and series, and gets you multiple rounds in. It's consistency. If the Knicks come in and they're on like a 6-7 game win streak, and then they beat OKC in a game that OKC is probably also trying in, then I would agree. Okay, this is something that would, unless you're just, again, an unreasonably pessimistic person who's looking for reasons to hate, yeah, that should shift the needle for you if you're judging this team. So yeah, I'd agree with you. I think in the context of something like that, I would, I'd say so.
But either way, going back to the overarching point here, OKC deserves more hype than it's getting. And one quick point I want to make, the bench is really good. The depth of this team is really good. Outside of Shea, outside of Shet, outside of J-Dub, probably my favorite players to track, Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe.
I'm
Because
disappointed you didn't pick. You know who I'm disappointed you didn't pick, but keep going.
who you disappointed? Who you disappointed? I didn't say.
Bro, AJ Mitchell, come on.
Yeah, AJ. Oh, yeah. But the reason I said Wiggins and Joe is because there's a certain confidence that they have shooting the rock now that maybe they didn't have in past seasons. Wiggins is shooting as many threes that he's ever shot into his career up until this point. He's shooting 6 per game, and he's shooting 43%. Isaiah Joe also shooting the most threes he's ever taken through 24 games in his career.
I'd say like Isaiah Joe has always kind of been like a shooter. That's how like his.
But now he's shooting even more.
His role. Yeah.
Now, because you have Shy, who he can shoot the lights out when he those step back daggers are heartbreaking. But then adding Wiggins and Joe to that, it's fantastic. And even going back to Sunday against the Jazz, the Thunder had 11 threes in the first quarter. Again, that was without Shea, without Isaiah Joe, without Caruso, without Dort. The Thunder had 11 threes in the first quarter. That's the most threes in franchise history in any period. Think about that. In any singular quarter in franchise history, it happened with most of your rotation guys out. What does that tell you? That the Thunder, the depth is ridiculous. And we could talk about Shea in a second, and you asked me to pull the double team stats for him. He's been double-teamed on a little over 18% of his possessions this season. That is 7th in the league behind Giannis, Booker, Jeremy Grant, ironically enough, and Edwards, Cat, and Denny from the Blazers. So 2 Blazers players.
Jeremy Grant is in the top.
He's in the
what is that? 5?
Top 7.
Jeremy Grant. So he's 6th. So Jeremy
it's
Grant
Giannis,
is being double-teamed more than.
It's Giannis 1, Booker 2, Jeremy 3, Ant 4, Denny 5, Cat 6.
Jeremy Grant is the top 3 most double-team players in the league this season, is what you're telling me.
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay, I haven't watched a lot of Blazers games recently. Has he been playing the whole season?
Well, okay.
Look that up. No, he's played 23 games.
Yeah. So he's getting double-teamed as much as anybody in the league. I mean, Giannis is Giannis. He's going to get double-teamed by drastically a different amount. But yes, Jeremy Grant.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, every other name you listed makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I am surprised that Jeremy Grant is in the top 3. Although he does.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes Shea stand out. Shea has the most points per that situation in the league. He's averaging 1.34 points per game when double teamed. That is more than anybody else in the league, despite the fact that he's shooting the least out of those situations and that he's not getting doubled as much as the 6 previously aforementioned names. There's a graphic by allcity_NBA on X. I want to give him his credit. He made the graphic behind SGA. You have Jaylen Brown, you have Cade, you have Sengun. But when you look at the breakdown of shooting out of double teams, passing out of double teams, getting fouled out of double teams, turnovers out of double teams, Shea is the only person in the top 7 who is not turning over the ball more than 4% of the time when double teamed. Giannis turns it over 7% of the time. Booker's at 7.5%. Jeremy Grant's at 8%. Ant is at 7%. Denny's near 8%. Cat is near 7%. And Shea's not even cracking 4%. So what does that tell you? That this guy who was MVP last year is not only intelligent when he has the ball, but can handle any situation you throw at him, which, I mean, is nothing new compared to last year.
The points per possession thing makes sense too when you just like factor in the fact that he's shooting like 70% true shooting this season, which, I mean, we'll have, I mean, no, I'm sure me, at least on my page, and at some other point, we'll have a conversation about just how like insanely efficient his scoring has been, of course.
It's really
that's a whole other animal.
It's
so yeah,
really
that
efficient.
checks out. I still can't get over the fact that Jeremy Grant is in the top 3.
I can't get over the fact that 2 Blazers are in the top 5.
Yeah, well, Denny Avdija, he makes sense, right? Like, he's good. He's, like, an all-star. Oops, sorry, hold on. Ooh, pardon, sorry. I had a cold earlier this week.
You're good. But all these players in the league, if I told you to guess who the top 5 players were, I don't think you would have said Jeremy or Denny, though. That's where I'm coming from. You would not have thought of a Portland Trailblazer.
I could see Denny. I mean, Denny's averaging like 27 and like.
Would you have guessed that though? Like that, he probably
would have guessed that. But it was like one of those things where it's like if someone just had like said it. Sorry.
He is averaging 26, 7, and 6, which is kind of insane, by the way. This is a sidetrack point, but I'm looking at some of these stat lines this season. And I feel like any other year, literally any other year of NBA basketball, we'd be going crazy. But for some reason, we're just numb. But anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've been interrupting myself the last like 2 minutes.
You're good.
My coughing fits.
No, you're good.
But I feel like, but I just wanted to say, I feel like, I wouldn't have guessed like Denny, but it's just one of those things where it's like, if you told me he was in the top 5, like, I would have been like, that makes sense. You can come up with a reason why. Creators besides him.
All that being said, Shea is the best player in the NBA when double teamed.
I brought this up because I just wanted to kind of factor in, like, I kind of asked you like what those like those double team like ranks were, because OKC has so much shooting and they have 4 guys who can all really kind of do something with the ball in their hands, right? There's not a single player on this team where if the rock is in their hands, they can't put the ball on the floor and do something. Like even Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Like 4 7-footer, 4 center in the league, he is one of the better just put the ball on the floor, go towards the rim, or pass out of it centers in the league. But one of the reasons why Shea is able to score so efficiently and so so often, of course, too, is because it's really hard to just kind of swarm him like teams swarm Denny Avdija, for example, because the Blazers don't quite have 4 guys on the court at once who can all do things like OKC did, and especially when they have like shooters like that, right? And I think that Shea is a historically good scorer. He's elite, right? I'm not discrediting that, but it doesn't help to talk about how, when you have 4 other guys out there who it's hard to really, constantly commit over every single possession to like go guard Shea, to go help out in Shea. It's hard to do that when you have a bunch of guys who, they'll punish you. They can when you have an advantage created by a rotating defender like that, OKC will take advantage of it. They're going to be able to attack those. Whereas for a lot of other teams that are kind of built around just one guy creating a lot of things, they don't quite have that same privilege.
Yeah, and it only adds to Shea's greatness, right? And even let's say, I kind of hate hypotheticals, but if Shea didn't have those guys around him, I feel like he still handled those situations just fine. And even in isolation, he burns you. I mean, how many times this season, everybody's always talking about, all right, Shea's not playing fourth quarters. But the fourth quarters he does play, he always has that one shot that just eats you up inside. That legitimately, it's like that step back 2 or step back 3 that's just like, yeah, what are you supposed to do about it? Right? So really, in every situation, that I really think the MVP is a two-person race between Jokic and Shea yet again, because the wins are going to play such a factor. And I hate when people say it shouldn't be about wins, because it is about wins.
Before we get more towards the MVP part, I just wanted to say I think Shea's leading the league in clutch points, despite the fact that he has also sat the most fourth quarters.
If he's I haven't researched that, but if he's leading the league,
so as of at least 12 hours ago, I guess 2 teams played today. I don't think they were both blowouts, so I don't think that would have changed anything. But yeah, Shea has 87 clutch points this season, followed by Cunningham, Cade 79, Maxey 73. And I think OKC has played like 1 or 2 games more, but it is crazy how you can be sitting fourth quarters
and
leading the league in
think about that for a second.
Total clutch points. Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, this guy,
he scores like 12 double digits every single fourth quarter he does play. I swear.
This guy, he makes basketball look easy, and he's such a fun player to watch. Like think about what you just said. Because every graphic I see, it doesn't matter what the sports page is. Oh, Shea's sitting out this number of fourth quarters, and you just told me that this guy is leading the league in clutch points. How? It's ridiculous. It really is. It really is. And, I mean, is it far-fetched to say that the MVP is his to lose?
No, I think this is a whole, I think, it's a very macro debate. I think now I don't understand how anyone could be mad at someone for having Shea first. You know what I mean? Like, because there will be people who are like, oh no, it should be Jokic. It should be. I don't see how you can argue Giannis at this point because he's just missed like so many games. Unfortunately,
he's on track actually to miss the threshold.
65 games. I think he's probably going to miss it. I mean, he's going to miss like another 3 weeks with that calf strain. But yeah, I mean, it feels like now he's got to be in the lead. I'm really not sure if there's anything Jokic can do, or I guess Luka as well.
Luka, yeah, there's nothing.
I mean, dude, yeah, if we end the season, OKC wins like 71 games, and Shea's averaging like 33, and he's the most efficient scorer in the league, and he's leading the league in clutch points.
It's him.
Like, what are you gonna say? Like, oh, he shouldn't be MVP. It's hard when he has you beat on advanced metrics, on like production.
Everything. If you have Jokic as MVP, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at anybody who has Jokic.
I would be kind of mad at this point because I had Jokic last year as my MVP. Honestly, I didn't like mind that Shea got it, but I would have voted for Jokic. I think at this point, if you're still saying Jokic should be an MVP when you have a guy who's winning in every single category, like you're just being stubborn.
The only thing I'd ask is what more can Shea do? That's for people who have Jokic as MVP. I won't be mad at you, but just answer me this: what more can Shea do? That's really it. Because this guy's gonna win 65 plus games. There's no indication that this guy's performance is gonna drop off this season. So, I mean, if you're a fan of the stats that put together a whole lot of random letters that Jokic is inevitably gonna lead, I mean that's fine. But this guy Shea's doing things that we don't see often.
You know, I'm not even sure if like Jokic is leading. Actually, no, he probably is still leading in like.
I don't like the stats I can't pronounce.
He probably still is, yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's not enough.
Oh, sorry. Just side note before we end this conversation on that topic. I mean, the reason why he was doing that a lot of previous years is because they had DeAndre Jordan as backup center, who was not that good. And Jonas Valanciunas this year has been like definitely above average backup center. So I don't even know if Jokic has like really doing well in those stats anymore this year as well.
But that was the goal. That was the goal for Denver coming in, because I think Jokic's minutes are a drastic difference from now to last year, I have to
Yeah.
check. But there was a point this season where he was playing significantly fewer minutes, and that's because when you have the depth, like a Valanciunas, as you were saying, Jokic has less of a burden on him, and that allows him to be more fresh in games down the road. So I definitely think, and this is a conversation for down the road, but I definitely think come postseason time, Jokic will be fresher than we've seen in past years because of the depth that Denver has. But as you said, it is going to hurt him in the MVP race. But I don't think it's necessarily him getting hurt more than it's Shea just being great, right? Jokic isn't hurting his case by playing fewer minutes. It's just that you have a guy in Shea who's doing astronomical things. I don't want this to be a Jokic lost the MVP because of X, Y, and Z. I want it to be a Shea won the MVP because of A, B, and C.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it feels like being a dead horse at this point with like those talking points, but somehow it still needs to be said because
Has to.
there's certain sets of the internet which don't seem to grasp that. But hey, my voice evidently is kind of failing me.
Not at all.
But
Not at all.
thank you so much, Yao, again for joining me tonight.
No, this was lit. This was lit, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a
look,
great combo, of course, per usual.
I
Love
want to
the
wrap it up by saying, OKC, please recognize what we're watching with OKC. The third team in NBA history to start 23-1. That, I mean, how often do we see these teams? Not very often. We were blessed to see them. We saw one in 2016 and one now. Think about all the basketball before 2016. We only saw one team do what we're seeing now. Okay? The Thunder are special, and I hope they get the praise that they deserve. That's all, that's what I'll say.
It could legitimately be another like 20, 30 years before a team gets off to a start this hot, especially with it does feel like parity is. I mean, it's taken a very special situation for OKC to do this, and I don't know how achievable this would be for another team anytime soon.
Not happening.
But yeah, I 100% agree though. If you're not watching your games out of pure spite, you're kind of just hurting yourself at this point. So
Well, you're not a
yeah,
fan.
well hey, yeah, thanks. Thank you everyone for joining us today though and listening. We appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back with something either probably hopefully next week. We've had some tech difficulties recently, which is why it's been a few weeks. But yeah, hopefully we get those figured out. But yeah, hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.